Welcome to the April 2024 edition of Photo Recap. My name is Josh, and if this is your first time, this is basically where I just talk about my 5 favorite photos that I took in the last month. Sorry if my voice sounds a little hoarse, I'm just getting over a little bit of sickness, but I'm excited to talk about the photos this month. It was a very, very productive month of photo making. However, before we start talking about my 5 favorite photos in the month, let's take a look at the kitty corner and see what we can find. I hope you enjoyed that. Now, with that out of the way, let's start talking about some photos, starting with this. This photo was taken on Kodak Gold 200 with the Bronica SQAI. Now, I'm starting off with this one because it's a bit out of the ordinary, for me at least. For starters, I didn't take it. This photo was taken by my good friend Mika while we were doing a little photo shoot here in my studio. She picked up the camera and told me to stay still and snapped away. Now, I don't get my photo taken very often, if you can believe it. I'm, generally speaking, the one behind the camera. And because of that, this photo did a lot in opening my eyes to another perspective. I titled this photo "The Other Side of the Studio" because, well, essentially, this is what my subjects would be seeing if I was photographing them. I make these videos facing this way, but yeah, just over here, just off screen is where all of this other stuff lives. I got my MIDI keyboard, I got 2 guitars on the wall, I've got some artwork hanging on the wall, a drawing that was drawn by my late grandfather. When I showed Mika these photos that she took of me, she said something that resonated pretty strongly. She said, "It's so you." As photographers, sometimes I think there are these blinders that we put on that shield us from being perceived. Generally speaking, I find that photographers are trying to be invisible, right? Whether that's to capture a genuine reaction from your subject, or you're trying to document from a state of objectivity or distance. That new movie that just came out, Civil War, actually sort of talks about that in a pretty unique way. Or even if you're a wedding photographer, you're simultaneously the most important and least important person at the wedding. You sort of have to be everywhere and nowhere at all times. So I think sometimes for me, I need reminding of the fact that I can be perceived, that it isn't just ether that's taking the photograph, that the person on the other end sees a person behind the camera. And not only that, but any artist's space is going to look chaotic to an outsider. This photo made me see this space in the way that an outsider might. And it's not every day we get that new perspective of our own everyday surroundings. So yeah, this photo, while technically not taken by me, is easily one of my favorites of the month. This photo was taken on Expired Portra 800 with the Ricoh XR2. Now, last week I posted a video about my time shooting an expired roll of Portra 800, and I can't say that it went entirely according to plan. I did unfortunately set the ISO dial to 400 instead of 200, which it should have been set at. All of the photos just kind of came out a bit underexposed, but as they say, every blunder has a bright side. I mean bright quite literally, because this roll of film clearly needed some more light to reach an adequate exposure. I saw this horse down by Jacob Riis Park. Harley and I rode our bikes from Bed-Stuy down there, and it was about like an hour and 15-minute bike ride, and we were exhausted. And seeing these friendly horses at the end of such a long trip was just such a delight. Compositionally, this photo isn't anything to write home about, but the more I make these recap videos, the less they have to do with the technicalities of the photo making process and more to do with how the photos make me feel and the memories that the photos carry with them. And seeing this photo just reminds me of the feeling of being there. Now, I grew up around horses, Harley did too. I've seen them all my life, but the day that I don't marvel at their majestic nature and their grace and absolutely intimidating stature is the day we're all f***ed. Now, I'm a little guy. You might not be able to tell from these videos, but most animals are ginormous to me. So that being said, while this photo isn't compositionally exciting, or technically exciting, it was my first time shooting an expired roll of Portra 800, so it has that element of, you know, a first time sort of thing, and a bit of an experimental sort of thing, but also it's just a mighty strong animal, and I really love photographing animals whenever I get the chance. This photo was taken on Fuji 400 with the Ricoh XR2. So normally, I don't like to do this. I don't like taking photos of other people's work or pawning it off as my own or capitalizing off of the hard work and artistry of others. Unfortunately, I don't know the artist of this piece, otherwise I would gladly credit them. This is a work of art that I pass by every time I go to pick up cat food, and I kept waiting for the right day to photograph it. Finally, I did, and what I discovered was a newfound appreciation for it. Taken at face value, it's an abstract photo with different textures, colors, shapes, drawing techniques. I like to think my photo accentuates the artistry of the piece, although I am self-aware enough to know that I am omitting quite a bit of the piece itself. Is that problematic? Does that pose an ethical dilemma? It certainly does with me a little bit. I don't mean to sit here on a soapbox and wax on and on about this point too much, but documenting other people's work has always felt odd to me. I say this again, fully aware that I have an entire series on this channel dedicated to the work of other people, and yeah, occasionally I make a little bit of money from them. And it's funny because these questions primarily arise when I'm photographing graffiti or other forms of street art. Something I find myself doing more and more lately, for whatever reason. But when photographing anything man-made, whether it be architecture, stained glass, or statues, I always tend to feel a bit icky. It wasn't until maybe this photo that I started seeing the potential beauty of spreading the art to the world at large. Which is why I wish I knew the original artist of this piece. If I find out who it is, I'll be sure to credit them in the description. As I'm saying all of this, I realize it's a subject I would like to tackle more broadly at a later date, so I think I'll make a whole video about it at some point. That way we could just move on to our next photo. This photo was taken on Kodak Gold 200 with the Bronica SQAI. Now this is the second time that I've done this. I did the whole kitty corner thing, and just when you think we've had enough of cats, I pulled the rug out from under all of you. And I'm not gonna lie, it gives me great joy. But I couldn't not include this banger of a photo of Pierre on this list. 2 months back, I had another close-up image of Pierre sleeping in my top 5. For this, I used the Vivitar +4 close-up macro filter, and I waited for the perfect moment to snap the photo. Like I said 2 months ago, it's unique to see an animal so up close and personal. And that narrow focal plane is so cool when you actually nail focus, which is not always the easiest thing to do. Now look, I love photographing my cats. Will I ever stop? Probably not. Will they always show up on the top 5 lists in my photo recap videos? Most likely. And I know none of you out there know shit about Pierre here, and you might even hate this photo, but I've got 2 words that might change your mind. Come on. Come on. These photos were taken on Ektar 100 with the Bronica SQAI. I did a photo shoot a few weeks ago with a friend named Renee, and there wasn't much of a plan going in, just that we wanted to do an outdoor shoot and take some moody photos in nature. And yeah, I couldn't pick between these two. This first one I enjoy mostly because of the foreground elements, also known as the flowers. There's a level of closeness that you feel to Renee in this image that's almost heightened with the addition of these foreground elements. I mean flowers. It makes it feel like you're there in the grass with her, your eyes blurring the flowers and focusing on her. What I'm saying is this approach seems intimate. It feels like it's in on the action. Now conversely, the other photo feels distant, as though you're an onlooker. It's a bit more of a traditional composition, with her lying diagonally in the frame. Her blue dress contrasts nicely with the green surrounding her. We have these two triangular halves of the image, and you know how much I love triangles. Also, a neat trick that I totally did on purpose is the brown that shows up in the top right and the bottom left. They sort of balance the image a little bit and present a bit of extra depth and intrigue to the image. And then there's the look that she's giving to the lens. Both of these images present a sort of micro case study in how where your subject is looking can alter the feel of the image. Her looking right down the barrel of the lens feels inviting, almost seductive, and yet the photo of her looking away, to me, feels more intimate. Let me explain. There's those performative moments of intimacy between people. You all know the ones I'm talking about. And then there's the quieter moments, or the observation or admiration, and that to me is what the first one conveys. Both are a form of intimacy, just different. Not that there's anything wrong with either one, but it just goes to show that certain decisions made on the day can have a grander impact in the way that a viewer might connect with the image. That'll do it for my month of April 2024. It was a very heavy shooting month, and I'm really hoping that I can keep up the productivity going into next month. If you watched my videos before, you know what I'm about to say, so hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to be notified when new videos come out. You could also become a member by finding that join button. For a few bucks a month, you could help support this channel well into the future. You could also help support me by going over to my print shop at darkroom.com. Consider buying a print. Some of these photos that you saw today might be available by the time you go on the website. So if you want to buy a print of any of these photos, you can find them there. And last but not least, go ahead and find me on Instagram. Feel free to DM me. Let me know what you'd like to see out of this channel, or let me see your work. Show me the things that you're proud of. I think that every single month, everyone should sort of do what I'm doing here. You should take a moment to reflect and say, oh, what did I do this month that I'm really proud of or really happy with? I've found that it really helps me in my process. So maybe it'll help you too. And with that, I'm going to leave this video off with some more photos that I took in April of 2024, and I will see you all next time.